You're listening to Wanderlust Diaries, the ultimate travel podcast for solo female travellers 40 and beyond who are ready to explore the world. Join me, Terri Reynolds, where we talk all things travel and why it's so important and what's stopping you from getting out there and exploring the world. We'll discuss the steps you can take now to fix it, empowering you to ignite your curiosity and set your heart free so that you have the confidence to travel wherever you want, whenever you want. Offering insights, tips, hacks, and remarkable women's stories along the way. So come on, grab your passport, pack your sense of adventure, and get ready to be inspired. Whether you're a first-time solo traveller or a seasoned globetrotter, Wanderlust Diaries is your community of like-minded souls, uplifting and supporting women over 40 who dare to explore. Welcome to today's episode of Wanderlust Diaries, and today I am joined by Vanessa Emily Hunt. So, hi Vanessa, thank you ever so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you agreeing, coming on and talking on our travel podcast. And just before we really get into it, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, Terri, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate being able to come on and speak with you today. I love talking about travel stories with fellow wanderlusters. And so I really feel like there's this connection piece, you know, people that have X many stamps in their passport, there's this point of connection that it's like a understood secret handshake thing. So I was so happy that you invited me on to come here and speak with you today. So I'm coming from most recently the majority of my own travel experiences within the last 3 or 4 years have been related to medical tourism. I have been undergoing a procedure abroad for fertility related purposes. Within the last, 3 years, I've been going to Bulgaria from the US. And prior to that, I had visited. I mean, I'm not one, I don't like to brag on like numbers, but, it's kind of been like a thing of mine. Prior to that, I've been to over 34 different countries before. So I worked a job in my 20s where I had ample time off, and I really took advantage of that, and I tried to travel as much as I could. And it was great because I would go to places like Thailand and the Philippines in the winter, and be able to kind of enjoy the the southern hemisphere weather, or equator related weather in the winter while in the US. So it's been really nice. So my travel background comes largely from, my own pursuits and passions, but then most recently to fulfill a goal, to have a child. Medical tourism is really where I've been traveling, or for the purposes for which I've been traveling most recently. So thanks again for having me on.
No, honestly, you're more than welcome. And this is fascinating. And I'm really interested in that side of it. You're, as you said, medical tourism. And we were talking just before we came on. And my next season is going to be more around intentional podcasts around this type of thing. And so you've very kindly agreed to come back next season and talk in more depth around that, where you will go into it in a lot more detail. And I appreciate that you're willing to do that. So for this session, I'd like to go back to, if that's all right, when you first, like you said, you started in your 20s, in your early 20s. So let's go back there and start there. And so that's quite young, isn't it, to go? I mean, I was 39, 40 I was when I decided to go off on my own. So I was quite grown up. But for a 20-year-old in their early 20s, that's quite a big thing. So what kind of traveling were you into at that age, and what inspired you? What kind of spurred you on to go off and travel?
Gosh, I think about the type of travel that I did in my 20s, and it has changed. I'll say that it has changed over the years. I mean, obviously now I'm going for, you know, purposes that I'm so excited to meet with you again
Yeah.
to speak on medical tourism. But you know, for when I was in my 20s, it was more like you know, sort of exploring my self identity. It was more exploring who I was as a person and trying to expand, you know, my self identity as much as I could and learn more about myself. So yes, that took me to like, you know, nunneries and Buddhist temples in Thailand. That took me to India several times, and it took me to you know, places where there was this Bali a few times. It took me to places where there was that spiritual element that I felt like was important in my travels. And so in my 20s, I went to India several times over the course of, gosh, I don't know, 6 years or so. And, you know, staying in ashrams and bathing out of buckets and, you know, monkeys coming into my room and stealing my snacks at the ashram. So it was definitely different. It was a different era. And now I'm not against that. I'm not. I think I've become probably a little bit of a softer traveler now. And I look back and I think about some of the things that I did in my 20s, and wow, boy, I was a brave traveler then. But it was all about, you know, it was about seeing what I could do and what I could learn. And I think it was fundamental and so important for me at that time.
Yeah, and I love that. You know, you say you went to India. That was my first port of call when I went off backpacking for the year. And I'd, you know, I'd barely been to Europe before, and I'd only been on my own with a friend once before. So to go to India for my first trip, it was the senses. I was so overwhelmed, you know, once that plane door opened. And I entered India with so much trepidation, and I was scared. But I left absolutely loving the country. And, you know, I still haven't been back, and that was 20 years ago. So I still want to go back. I've always got that, you know, in my heart to go back there. But, you know, as I said, I was a lot older. So for you at, you know, in your 20s, that's a really big step. So what about your family? Were they all like, yes, fantastic, off you go and have a great time? Were they a bit like, are you sure?
Truly, I feel like the world has gotten bigger yet smaller at the same time. I look back and I think, oh my gosh, were I a mother and my daughter was going to announce to me that she was going to go off to India for a month, I would be worried. And so it
Yeah.
was definitely a different era. However, I come from a multicultural background where my mother's family is from the Philippines. And so really Filipinos are citizens of the world. And I've had a number of family members on my mom's side, you know, they would go and they'd work in the UK, they'd take work in Saudi Arabia, you know, they'd go off to different countries to work. And, you know, my mom met someone who was from the US. My father was in the Navy. And so I think it was quite normal for her to accept that travel was part of, you know, is part of the life story. So I think it wasn't a huge stretch for her, but I think I'm of the opinion that I have an older soul than my mom. And so I don't know if I think I would be inclined to be more worried about that if my daughter were to say that. I think just the access to news and how the media presents certain things, and that we've heard some stories about, you know, assault and rape occur, you know, against foreigners traveling in India. And it makes one more wary. And yeah, sometimes I wonder, I look back and I think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Wow, I can't believe I did that. But that's a life well lived, isn't it? I mean, if you can't look back in your 20s and say that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And whenever you go traveling, whatever your age, doesn't matter. That's the right time for you. Like, there's no way I could have gone traveling in my 20s. I got married really young, and I had a baby. So doing anything like that was totally out of the question for me. And so that's why, in my I went off traveling when I was 39, 40. And that was the right time for me, and that's what you have to think about is, because a lot of women who are going to be listening to this podcast, not just women, actually, men as well, they think that because they're older, that it's not for them. And that's exactly what I thought when I first had this idea about going off for a year. Around the world, my head, I would have these stories, telling myself, well, who do you think you are? You're a 39-year-old mother. I mean, you've got a job. What do you think you're going to do? Because, mostly it's gap year. Kids that are out there doing this. And yes, they were. I was like the oldest kid on the block, really, traveling around. I was nearly always the oldest person there. But I had the most fantastic time. So to me, age it literally is just a number, and it's all about when that time is right for you. And obviously for you, that felt right for you to go off, do what you did. And what did you? Because that's a massive thing to do, especially to go to. How long were you in India? Like the first time you went, how long did you actually stay?
Yeah, I think I don't remember exactly, but I know myself, I wouldn't have booked anything under a month. Just, by the time you get over the time change and to move around, I wouldn't have booked anything under a month, but I don't think I was gone longer than 2 months. But I went back multiple times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that coming back after that. So, okay, let's talk about transformation then, right? So the first time you went was for a month, 2 months, whatever it was, the time scale. So can you picture now the person that left to go to India and then picture the person that came back? What was the transformation for you?
Wow. That's such a great question. And I think depending on different days, I might respond differently. But today, I think the seeing the amount of poverty was definitely something that sort of shattered concepts for me. Seeing that level of poverty and seeing the the humanity, the crowds, the assault on the senses that India can be, and just seeing the beauty at the same time. It's just wondrous, and it's really difficult to put into words. Oh yeah, I don't even know if ChatGPT could do a good job with this. It's like I would put in just like colorful, fragrant, sexy, dirty, exciting, scary, imposing. These are things that, I believe one can enjoy at any age. I met people of all ages there, women of all ages, and that was amazing too. It was really remarkable to see different people, in different points in their life journeys at the ashrams, and who was quiet, who wasn't, who was willing to, share some doll with, and who was not. Yeah,
And I
definitely.
think for those people as well, because I know from my own experience, on different days, I would feel like I want to be invisible, just keep myself to myself. And then other days, I'm like, here I am. I'm ready to talk to everybody and find out everything. So I think, we all have that kind of journey within us where we can't be on it, 24/7. And I know for me, I actually had somebody say to me, sometimes you can be quite invisible. You know, you wouldn't even notice you're there, but other times you're very, very much present. And I think that just depends on the day, the time, whatever's going on for that day. But did you, you know, when I first got to India, I had such an overriding sense of guilt. And I almost felt like that I should give everything to them. Everything I own, they need it more than I do. And I just need to give them everything and just go home. Obviously, I didn't do that. But when you see that amount of poverty and the illness, you know, the disabled, and you see all of that in front of you, fully on show, there's no getting away from it, especially when you go to Old Delhi. Then I had that, you know, that I felt guilty that, oh my God, you know, what can I do to help them? What can I give them? But of course, I couldn't do that. But did you have a feeling like that at all?
It's certainly humbling, and I think it can strike a chord with your own money story, and you know, the way that you may have been previously viewing the world, and you know, yeah, it's tough. It's tough until you actually see it in action live. It really is. It's humbling. And at the same time, it makes you, of course, appreciate your own life. But in the same time, it's subjective as well. So yeah, it is really, really wild. And it's a great invitation to, double check your money story, as I like to call it. In my 20s, I was traveling really modestly, and, you know, I had a budget, I was staying in ashrams. And so I was kind of on the end of, you know, the experience that I was able to handle, which for me still was very moving. And I do appreciate having had that experience for sure. It does change you. It definitely ignites the protector in you. I think for myself, internal family systems, I think the protector wants to come out and make sure everyone's okay. And you try and enjoy the small moments where you're able to give and share with those that you interact with. But knowing that, you know, there's so many millions of other people out there that are, you know, living in that level of poverty is just really humbling.
It is. It's just a different level, isn't it? Until you've actually experienced it, you can't really explain it. But we live through it. You know, you have to just live through it and get out of it the other side. But it was so, like you said, humbling, and you know, so grateful that I was able to see that, you know, feel it, and get for me the empathy then, you know, that I can give. But so it's very interesting country is India, and you've got all these senses that go just get blasted, that go with it, and what you come away from it with. So you did India. What was next for you then after that? Because I would imagine, especially going somewhere like India, you now have the confidence. You could go anywhere in the world, literally, couldn't you? You know, once you've been somewhere like that, having not experienced it before, it gives you the confidence, doesn't it, to just go on and go do something else. It makes it a bit easier. So what was next for you after that?
Gosh, I think the piece that was important, I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure I then was spending, I went to Thailand several times in the north, and I think that's where that's where the next the area of fascination became for me. Just, you know, the Thais are just amazing. They're an amazing people. They're so cool. The culture is so rich. The food's so good. And
very interesting country. Very, very. I ended up in Pattaya, So that's very colourful. But outside of that, like you said, the people were so friendly. And outside of that, then, you know, the little islands dotted around it. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. So were you there for a particular purpose when you went to Thailand, or was it literally just traveling around and exploring?
I went to study Thai massage. I found a really cool school, yeah, in Chiang Mai, just outside of Chiang Mai,
Yeah.
and I had gone back. It was once or twice afterwards. I'm in
Mm.
my mid 40s, so that's why it's
Mm.
like I it probably sounds like I have a terrible memory, but um, let's see. But I had gone. I think I went back once or twice afterwards, and then
Mm.
I did
Mm.
more of the country. You know, I
Mm.
went down to Bangkok.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Koh Phangan. Yeah, you got to try the beaches down there. It'd
Oh,
be, you
yes.
know, you have to go. So
I think it's
yeah,
law. You have to. Wonderful. So yeah, so we've gone from India to Thailand. So obviously you, and as you say, you know, family from Philippines as well. So obviously that part of the world is a bit of a draw for you, I would imagine. Anyway.
I absolutely. At that time, my mom had not built. So my mom lives in the U.S. But
Mm.
at the time, my mom had not like there's like they live in a suburb of Manila, and it's quite dense. But she hadn't built like a little. It's kind of like an add-on to the family home there, and so at that time she hadn't built that. But once she did, in my
Mm.
early 30s, that
Mm.
at that point it became a really great jumping off point
Ah,
for other places. You know, like we went to kind of on the other end of the spectrum, Singapore, and you know,
yeah.
I went to Bali a couple of times. So
Yeah.
it became a great base to
Yeah.
kind of jump from and take the lower cost regional flights to get around.
Fantastic.
So
So it was kind of a
yeah,
base really then for you to
yeah, it
launch
was.
yourself off
Yeah,
to wherever else. What about Australia? Did you ever manage to get to Australia as well?
I did Tasmania.
Oh, did you? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, gorgeous place,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. Yeah,
I was
and then
there for.
everybody loves New Zealand, of course. Can't
Well, I
yeah.
never got to New Zealand. I got to Australia and did Tasmania a few years later when my daughter was over there, but went to Australia and didn't. I was meant to go to New Zealand, but I didn't. And of course, you know, I could kick myself because I was so close. Why didn't I? But I didn't go, and I ended up going to Hawaii instead,
Well, you know, hey, that's not a bad alternative. I mean,
which
if there had to
absolutely
be
no.
one.
It wasn't too bad a choice, you know. But yeah, so I've not been to New Zealand. I did go to Tasmania quite a few years later when my daughter was in Australia, and we decided to go and stay for a few days. And the weather was so horrendous for the days that we were there. I think we left. We came back early because it
Oh
was
no.
just couldn't do anything. So that was a shame. Um, but I was when I was in Australia in 2000. I was kind of based out of Melbourne quite a bit. I travelled up and around, but I was working in that in Melbourne at the time. So we went back there as well, and I met up with a few people that I'd worked with, etc. So that was fantastic. But yeah, New Zealand, I didn't get to. Did you? So you've been to New Zealand?
I did on a it was a well, these are all I guess we're all speaking about separate trips.
Mm.
It was years and years ago.
Mm.
That was probably like the first trip I took. I had some time off in college. I mean, not long. I think I went for like 2 weeks. So I just scratched the surface. And
Yeah,
this was before even having gone to India. So a
yeah.
long time ago.
So okay, so this is quite interesting then. So how did you deal with um you know, taking that flight on your own for the first time? How did you deal with like loneliness or even things like, because I get asked these questions a lot, you know, around, well, what do you do when you've got to, you know, you have to go and eat on your own? You go to breakfast on your own, you go to dinner on your own, you have to do this on your own. How did you deal with that, cope with that? What were your coping mechanisms?
Wow, such a great question. And I think I want to just offshoot here. Uh, and say, I met a lovely lady in Idaho back in August, and her husband had recently passed. I don't know her exact age. I'm guessing she's mid 70s, early 80s, and quite active, lovely lady, gardened, and we would like kind of maybe grab walks in the evening while I was out there. And she mentioned having not been able to go to church. She wanted to go to church, but she hadn't picked a place. She and her husband, I think he passed due to COVID complications. They hadn't finalized on a church, and I knew I could feel she wanted to go, but she was feeling a little trepid about it. And I said, "Let's go to church. Let's do it." And I can't tell you the last time I went to church myself, and so. I think it could apply to anything. It could apply to, gosh, I don't want to go to church by myself. Oh my gosh, I don't want to get on an airplane by myself. And it's great that she allowed me to go with her. We went a couple times after that before I had to head back east. So if you can travel with someone, that's of course the best, although that might not necessarily what is best for you at the time, or what the intention is. So I mean, I like to make friends while I'm out there. If I feel like if I'm feeling or experiencing some sort of hesitation, then I'll ask someone a question, or I'll get to know someone, or I'll make an alliance of some sort, right? And make a friend on the plane, whatnot. And so that's really, possible to do. Everyone's just sitting there anyway. And, you can, it's amazing who you'll meet in those sorts of situations. So,
the best thing about, I always say this, the best thing about being solo is you can either go and talk to people, or you don't have to. Again, depending on how you're feeling in the moment, and it's about how you feel. If you want to speak to somebody, then just speak to them. But people make this big thing out about it, that, I can't, just a stranger, I can't speak to them, can't speak to them. Well, as soon as you say hello, they're not a stranger anymore, for a start. And just strike up a conversation, isn't it? You don't have to, you don't have to be in each other's company then for the next 3 weeks or whatever. It's just about, and, I've done it often myself, where I've met somebody, just, a glancing hello or whatever. I'm just going to go here. Oh, well, I'm going there as well. So you end up going together. Then you part ways, and then you'll go for dinner for something or something like that. You speak to somebody, you'll have dinner with them. And you might do that for a couple of nights. And it just depends, doesn't it? But it does happen. And I know people get anxious about this. But once you've done it once, honestly, it really is quite an easy thing to do, isn't it? Would you agree with that?
I so would. And I really think that it's a luxury, what you just said. It's a luxury whether you want to elect to speak to someone or not. That's a luxury that you don't have when you're traveling with someone. And, I started dating again recently, and my friend in Berlin, she's a dating coach, and she said, go on these dates because you're going to come back with a good story. Look at it as if you're going to create a good story. And it's really much the same. I mean, I can remember sharing a cocktail with an older gentleman flying a propeller plane into Laos. I remember just that. I don't remember what specifically we talked about, but at that point I was single as well. And I had a book about seduction, fallout. So I think he saw it and he's like, okay, I guess she was just practicing. So, I mean, it's a good story now. And I would say, just go as if you're going to write your blog and put it up on Substack and just have it ready. I think you got to have that certain level of adventure and be willing to witness yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Just start small as well. Just say hello to somebody. If that's all you can cope with at the moment, just say hello. And then strike up a conversation, and then just walk away. Say, lovely to meet you. Have a nice day. And it can be just that simple, can't it? And I think what we can do in our own minds is build up this ginormous story of, oh, we've got to be really funny, and we've got to have this brilliant story to tell, otherwise nobody will want to talk to us. And it's not. It's just literally, hey, how are you? How's your day been? Have you been anywhere exciting? Blah 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 blah. Oh, we'll have a wonderful rest of the day. May catch you again. And that's all you have to do, isn't it? It can be that simple. And then if you click, who knows where that will go? And unless you try it, you will not know.
We've got to get out of our own way.
Yes, yeah. It's all about that comfort zone, isn't it? Oh, got to park it up somewhere.
Yeah.
Get uncomfortable.
Yeah, travel will erode that, which is, I guess the mixed blessing of it, the beauty of it. That's what we're there to do, I think. Park the comfort zone.
Yeah,
and at the airport parking lot.
Yeah, and I just think that, no matter where you go and no matter how you start, if you just want to go to the next village along and have a coffee for the first time on your own, that type of thing, if this is your first tentative step into solo travel, then, just do something small. Don't go out there and think, I've got to go and fly 20 hours now and have this great big adventure for 3 months and then I can call myself a solo traveler. No. It's all about doing the small things to build your confidence. And once you, like we were saying earlier, once you've done that, it does become a lot easier. And I've seen this as well. I've seen people coming back from just the simplest of things and they're so pleased with themselves that I did it. I went to that coffee on my own. Next time I'm going to go and have dinner on my own. And, I'm going to stay overnight in a hotel in down the road 10 miles. That type of thing, isn't it? When you just feel amazing. And once you start, I'm warning everybody now, once you start, you won't stop.
Solo travel is dating yourself, and you have to be your best company. You have to be your favorite company.
Yeah, no, exactly. So if we come back to, I know we're going to talk about this more in depth next season, but so you have been going back and forth now, you said, to Bulgaria, I believe you said. So how has that been? And you don't have to go into too much detail, but how has that been? Because obviously there's a purpose to this now. It's not just about travel. There's a real intent behind it, and a purpose. So how has that been for you?
Yes. The purpose is different, and so I think the travel experience has been different. It's been different. When you're going to get to know yourself better or expand yourself in some way. Yeah. Although I guess the role that I was, I'm currently on a hiatus from it, and I'm taking a break. I'm taking all of next year off from it and evaluating whether I'm going to return and whether that's for me in the future. But I think it's about having that real conversation with yourself about what you want. So luckily, Bulgaria is really close to Greece. And
yes.
So luckily, and so yeah, all the things that's amazing about Greece is like a 5-hour bus ride from Bulgaria. So that made Bulgaria much more agreeable in that way. Bulgarians are great. They're I love that sort of. I dated someone who was Polish. In my early 20s, and so I love that sort of that. I don't know if I could be generic and say like medical humor. I would say that East Europe humor. It's I love their humor. They're really cool people.
Yeah. Okay, so all right then. So you obviously popped it down to Greece as well. So which parts of Greece have you been? What's your favorite?
Yeah, gosh, I would love to do more. Thessaloniki is the closest. There's only like a 5-hour bus ride from Sofia, so that made it easy. But it was easy to, like you say, pop down to Athens, Milos, and Paros, and all the fun islands, and
all the
Corfu.
Cool it's lived Greece. It's been a few. When was the last time I went to Greece? Santorini a couple of years ago. But yes, I love Greece. It's the first place I went to with a friend. I was 38 at the time. It was the first time I'd been on a girly holiday. And I was
Nice.
38, and we went to Kinross, and went 3 times that summer, actually. Just the two.
Wow. Okay.
Fell in love with
It
it.
was good to
Well,
you.
I was addicted then, because obviously I'd never been before, and so I was absolutely addicted. And it was from that summer in '98 was born the traveling around the world for a year. So, so that was the catalyst for that.
Gateway drug. I love it.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah. So, so I had a fantastic girly holiday, as they say. So yeah, fantastic. So what's next for you now then on the travel front? Do you have anything, or are you just going to take it easy now for a while?
I actually had to renew my passport last month, and I had to get, like, I call it the big boy. I had the smaller version, so I guess you
Oh, I
can
see. Yeah.
renew and get the 50-page version. So
Yeah.
pretty soon I'll be ready. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't really. I think I'm going to take it easy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm taking some time off from the fertility journey in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
So I'm going to reevaluate whether that is right for me. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
who knows? Who
What
knows?
are you a spontaneous traveler? Like, I'm a bit like lastminute.com. Let's go here next week, and like a few of my friends are married, and of course they can't just drop everything and just go, so being a solo traveler is quite useful because I'll just go on my own. Are you like that, or do you like to plan things well in advance?
A mixed bag. I mean, if I meet someone that wants to go to Tanzania in 2 weeks, I'm ready. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I leave it to caprice.
Yes. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You can do what you want, when you want. Well, I think that's a really good place to leave it, actually. It's been really great chatting about all of this, and I'm really looking forward now to next season, where we can dive a little bit deeper and, give our listeners, anybody who's kind of on a similar journey, you can give them the benefit of your experience, of what you've been through. So I really appreciate that. But I've loved listening. I literally could talk to you for hours, especially around India, because I've got so many stories myself. I can bore anybody easily with talking about India.
Oh, not me. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I know we kept it light for your listeners.
That's
but
right.
yeah, some of the fun stories I would love to get into next time.
No, that'd be great. Do you have any, like, a top tip for anybody who's gonna, who's thinking now, who's listening to this, thinking, I really want to do some solo traveling? What would be the first thing that you would say to do or to think about? Is there anything that you could pass on?
Yeah. Gosh, I feel like you actually shared it. I think the piece about starting small. Have you ever been to 2 towns over? If so, great. If not, why not? And is there something about that town 2 towns over that might be of interest or might be of value to you? Or, what would be the benefit in, going? Or does there have to be a benefit? Maybe you just need some time to be in your own headspace and, have the time to yourself. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. I think you hit it earlier.
I love that as well. 2 towns over. So I really like that. I'm going to start using that phrase myself. I'm pinching it. 2 towns over.
I love it.
Love it. Thank you, Vanessa, so much for joining me today. And so that's it for this week's episode of Wanderlust Diaries. See you all next time. And that concludes this episode of Wanderlust Diaries, celebrating the fearless spirit of solo female travellers who are 40 and beyond. I hope you found inspiration, valuable insights, and a renewed sense of wanderlust. Thank you to all our incredible listeners who have joined us on this exciting journey. Remember, age should never stop your quest for adventure, because the world is waiting for you to explore its wonders. And don't forget to join our community on social media to connect with fellow travellers and subscribe and review us on your favourite podcast platform. All links are in the show notes. Keep dreaming, keep exploring, and stay fearless. Until next time, this is Terri Reynolds signing off from Wanderlust Diaries. Psst, don't keep me a secret. Please tell your friends and fellow travellers.